So, I remember Tucson, it's like 91, maybe 6 months after high school graduation, and I'm thinking, I gotta write a one-man show. Already thinking that came like a lightning bolt, like it does, like the information. Filed that away, never did write that, but started writing in earnest in 92. This story we call the legend, we call it the myth, the thing, about being on this path, about this timeline that we see at our feet, and we ride it like a surfboard. Yeah, ride it like a skateboard. So now we're writing, and it becomes obvious this is the one-man show. Finally, tried to write this as a book. Tried to write it many stories. It's never come together. Written it 10 times, destroyed it 10 times. Number 11, that's the charm. So there was a boy who was born in 1973 in May to a minister father, George, Reverend George, and to a funny plump lesbian. Married to the minister, was a lesbian. Everyone called her Boots. The boy's name was Bryce Levon. Cushing was a family name. Since he could remember, the boy received messages. When he was a small child, he would hear a tone in his ear, a sound, as if coming from a machine. It was a buzz. It was high-pitched. Yeah, we can call it a message machine. He would hear it, this pitch, and then he knew the information would follow. Data would come. It's about the life he would live in New York City when he was old enough to go there. The voice would say, "Boy, learn how to ride the rails, hot boxcars, and you will enjoy it. But there will be danger as well. You are going to be on the road for most of your life. People will think you are running, and you might be. You'll be confused. You'll be confused that you cannot stay in one place. You never do stay for long. You pack up, you leave in the middle of the night. Often, sometimes at midnight, sometimes 3. You just know it's time. You can't stay, and then you go. Your thumb will be magic, and as soon as you're able to get out of the house, which is not a home, never was, for you, you will hitchhike your way to freedom. You'll grow up too fast. This cannot be avoided. For you, will not relate to children at all. They will scare you. All you know of being a child is how to make a man come in your mouth. Earliest memories. Sucking dick at 3. You'll be in trouble for a long time. Trouble will become a badge of honor, a nickname, and a professional troublemaker. You'll be known as Producer, nightclubs. You'll find yourself trapped at a point of no return. Everything that worked when you were young will no longer work as you get older. And the thoughts you had as a child that you were not welcome alone. You were alone, and there was no home for you anywhere. This thinking and all the anger you possessed, which kept you safe, you are now a slave to. You'll find yourself homeless. It may seem unimaginable because you will spend a great deal of time in mansions when you're younger, in your 20s. You didn't pay for anything, limousines and theater, dinner at 12, midnight. You're around people who pay for everything for you for over a decade. But as you get older, the magical thinking that everything will always work for you, that all you have to do is throw yourself into the void and circumstances present themselves, people appear. Yeah, we call these people keys in this myth. You begin riding in 92 with Zach's Lightning Moss. Short Mountain comes, the first version. And you're never alone in this time. After hitting New York City in 92, you have a big producer, Ethan Ghetto, and your photographer boyfriend, who shall remain nameless as he's horrible to you now. Ethan's no longer with you either. Life is so different than it was then in the 90s. You wanted for nothing then. You paid for nothing. You saw visions in your head. You wrote them down and they came true. Now you bounce from town to town. It all feels aimless. Several weeks ago, you pulled up under a tree in South Florida in the dirt and you lied down. You said, "This is where I land. This is where I sleep tonight." It was cold. You had no jacket. You had left it on the sailboat you were living on Key West by accident. A sailboat in Key West, a mile out on a hook. This was a stupid idea. That this could be a home for you because you've never had one. That's the real truth. And this night, under a tree in Lake Worth, you knew that if you did not get to the bottom of how you became to be programmed to believe that you did not deserve a home, that you would continue this spiral to the depths of street living. Came clear that night under a tree in the dirt and the mulch, lying there. We were programmed to believe he did not deserve a home. How did this happen? How do we fix it? How can it be fixed? In your younger years, magical thinking would get you by. In reality, you'd meet a hot man in a dark bar that never failed. You'd have a place to go, were invited to a party, were given drugs, traded your body for a place to crash. Didn't feel bad, felt good, it was alright. Never was given cash for sex, but my looks got me a meal ticket and a room with a man. It never failed. Never slept under a tree in the dirt and the mulch. This kid, him, me, I never slept on the street, under a tree, never. Couldn't even imagine that fate for myself, but the truth is, I did when I look back. I was not being honest. I needed to really look and see, and I crept back into the recess of my memories of this life, and I could find many times when I chose to be homeless rather than do what normal people do, pay rent and do more than just survive in this economy programmed to destroy its own environment. I remember a whole summer when I lived in a tent down by the river, and then in a fishing access in Columbus, Montana, again in a tent. And these times, now and again, when I would choose homelessness over a house that I lived in or an apartment, give it up, and go. Just run. What was I running from? I never bought into any of it, you see, but I created a situation by not following the rules of any kind, where I'm totally screwed in this life now. I sacrificed myself the way my father and mother had sacrificed me growing up, to rich men, one after another. I had rich boyfriends that abused me and who I abdicated all myself to. I gave up my unique being for the fast life with the black M3 BMW after my photographer boyfriend left me for a porn star after 7 years. I thought we were going to be together forever. After I followed the visions and found my people, the March on Washington, and that's a long story and it's a great story, but I thought my boyfriend and I would be together forever, the photographer, and for these 7 years we were. And then he was done. I didn't pay rent. I couldn't get it together. I drank all day. I thought we were going to be together forever, and I was so set on monogamy, but I was a terrible lover. Man, I came in 5 minutes when we had sex. It was ridiculous. I was jealous, I was petty, and I refused to pay rent. I was surrounded by people with lots and lots of money, so what the hell did I need to pay rent for? He had a multi-million-dollar business. What did I need to contribute for? Is this the right thing to do? Because everybody does it. Man, I had a business designing gardens. I worked hard and I made very good money. And I spent it on cocaine and booze. All-night parties with my friends. Staying up. While my partner paid the bills, complaining that I was a freeloader and threatening to oust me from the nice home car provided. He was very generous, man. Dinners out all the time with our friends. And I was stupid. I was immature, man. I deserved it when he got me an apartment in West Philly and saying, "See you later," to me and my dogs, and let me go, cut me loose. I had no idea how to make a home for myself. I abandoned this apartment to move in with Inya Buttocks, my starlet, in my nightclub act, Camp Squirt, which had made me a known commodity in the East Coast. I was a mess in a dress, they called me. Wild child, professional troublemaker, yeah, MoonFire Tower. Folks were into what I did in the clubs. I mean, I had mojo and spades to spare and went everywhere with swagger and confidence, and took Joey Arias to Provincetown for the summer. By that time, I figured out that the lady singing in my head was Joey all my childhood, all my life. And at this point, he was the talk of the town, man. I had a crew, Zach's Lightning Mouse, my bandmate. We were recording our first record, Conrex Machina, and Jonathan Larson was always there, man, right before he wrote Rent. He'd been Ethan's internal messenger, man, my producer for many years, his bicycle messenger. Yep, how could this be? How could he be his bicycle messenger? How did this happen? A tape discovered, put in Ghetto's mailbox by accident? This is the crux of this story, the crux of this myth. We were always there when this kind of thing happened, man. We were sharing a studio with Varla Jean Merman when she was launching in New York City. Fernando Torre, man. We were watching Varla. We knew it was a huge thing. Everybody was there to watch Varla launch in New York City, and we shared a studio with her. This is just another example, man. We were with Martina Navratilova when the Rainbow Visa card was launched in the Rainbow Room, and Melissa Etheridge, and it just went on during this time, and that's what I channeled. That's what the visions were about, that we're part of this group, Ethan was always on the list of the top 50 most powerful gay men in the world, and he wanted to be my daddy, and I could have just gone with him and been taken care of forever, and now he won't take my phone calls, and it's killing me, man. So we researched this time in human evolution, which was being called the Great Leap Forward, Zax and I did, and Stefan Rossmeisel and our band. Humanity could reach a whole new potential, it was said, become a new human. We smoked a lot of pot, and I saw flashing lights which said, fifth dimension, over and over. We lived a life of shamans, man. Zax could do anything, paint, draw, play guitar between his knees with a bow. We went to Bordeaux, man, and sat on the floor watching all 3 sets with Joey, Raven, and Sherry, man. I went backstage, always, everywhere I went. I was MoonFire Tower, and I was known to be a producer now at Fluid, a very hot club in Philly. I walked up to Joey then, who had just jumped out of Madonna's birthday cake at her birthday party, and told him I was going to make him the biggest star in the world, man. He said, all right, okay, with his squeak, shoved his hands down my pants. Later at the bar, Mugler was there, who I didn't recognize. I didn't know what he looked like. He asked me who I was, and I said, my name's MoonFire Tower. I'm Joey's producer. He smiled and said, no, I'm Terry Mugler, and I'm Joey's producer. I was embarrassed, but I shrugged it off, man. It was a fucking cool night. Terry Mugler saying he's Joey's producer, man. I thought the story will last a lifetime. Stories upon stories in this archive of myth, this legend, whatever this thing is. Originally, it was a project with several of us engaged, and those that abandoned it, the path we called it, now sit at the opposite ends of the internet, looking like fat frogs, man, blocking me, man. As a child, New York was far away. I was in Montana, and I didn't know anyone who had ever gone to New York, but I trusted this voice in my head, which was accompanied by music, a lady singing. Lady sing the blues, and I go weak. I would hear a voice saying, you're an artist. You must find your people. On top of a mountain, they are dancing around a pole. A vision quest will take you to them. They are an ancient tribe, come back to Earth after being wiped clean from history. The ancient fae of legend are here again. Find them, you must. You must find them. You'll be helping boxcars, man. You'll be using your magic thumb, man. Put your thumb out. You'll hitchhiking around the country, and that's how you'll find it. You gotta be in the flow. Gotta be in the zone. You'll be on the road, like Jack Kerouac. Yeah, your favorite. It was not always this way here. You'll find yourself in the capital of a native tribe. You'll have a hard time, boy. The best often have the hardest time in this paradigm. There are no guarantees, but if you make it, if you end up on that stage at Carnegie Hall after the tour around the world with your very special show, the one in the prophecy, if you can assemble the cast, all the downtown performers like Earl did in the tent on the West Side Highway, if you can do it, then the magic songs will appear. They will pop out of Bunny's wig, and you'll record them, and perhaps the world will be saved. Perhaps, we're not sure. It doesn't seem to be happening that way. Perhaps not. Doesn't seem like the people want to stop with the shopping malls and consuming cheap shit from China, man. Cheap shit from China. So don't get your hopes up. It's a long shot, man. We thought this would be happening much sooner. Like we thought it was now. Like the poles would shift, and all of a sudden we'd be transformed. We were ready for it, but it hasn't happened yet. Going from the 3rd to the 5th dimension, man. We channeled a method called Easy Fun Fast, and brings on ego death and beyond, life beyond thought. But I've not mastered this world, and I still get lost, and now I've been homeless and slipping through the cracks, and that ain't fun. Once you slip below the sidewalk, then it's hard to get out. Climb, you gotta claw, you gotta pray, you gotta beg to get out of there. So my first memories are sucking dick of an 18-year-old man boy, man. I don't know if he was hot or not. I can't remember. Just remember his dick in my mouth. These memories and the reality that his parents didn't care enough, that my parents didn't care enough to protect me, and they didn't really want me around. I was not really safe. And it was really caused me to really be unsafe indeed. I became addicted to danger as I got older. I've always have been. I'm in need of reprogramming. I realized that just able to recently see when and where I broke inside as a child, but I'm not sure how to fix it. I'm chronically homeless now, and it's hard to admit, which is a terrifying concept to wrap my head around. But pedophiles picked me out throughout my childhood off the schoolyard and the field on the farm in Nebraska, and they were much better than my father, who locked me in a basement in Montana with no heat, just a wood stove. I preferred the pedophiles to my father. At least they gave me affection and some beer and treated me special. My father put me in a basement and locked me down there with cement floors and no paint on the walls, and only heat we had was a potbelly stove that constantly backed up, filling the whole place with smoke. So you gotta open the doors and the windows, and it got colder than fucking ever. Joke this place was, man. It was a slow motion tragedy our house was. So on a farm in Nebraska, man, I became a cocksucker supreme at 3. I sucked off the 18-year-old boy, and his 3 brothers lined up too. Sucked them all off. Had no choice. So I was put in the basement with 4 of them. I didn't want this. It sucked. Literally. But I still crave for a man to come and rescue me, man. I wish it worked. I wish it worked long term, but I picked the wrong ones, and they're mean, or they fight, or they won't kiss me, or they put me in jail on a false charge, man. I wonder how I could be a sex worker, man, and get paid for it, but I'm 50 and I think it's too old for that. I say to myself, man, the last bad boyfriend put me in jail in Miami, and it was a false charge. He said I was a vagrant who came to stay in the Airbnb, and I wouldn't leave. I was using COVID as an excuse to stay, man. But I cooked all his meals and his mother's, and I had a contract and a lease, and I paid my rent. The damn Dominican wouldn't even kiss me, man. What kind of a boyfriend is that? Wouldn't give me affection. I knew the boys were coming over to do this thing called plunking, where they shit on the floor, and I don't know. I don't want to talk about it, but I knew. I stayed. It's my fault. I stayed. It was my fault then. In Miami, I learned that the police can do whatever they damn well please. They said to me, if you didn't do it, then it won't matter, man. What a joke, man. It ruined me. They said, if we ever see you back in this neighborhood again, we're going to arrest you. I believed them because they took me to jail. They destroyed my businesses, and I was never allowed back on my property, and they changed the locks, and my ex changed the locks, and that was illegal. Even though the judge said he was supposed to stay away for 30 days, and they didn't follow what the judge said. That order disregarded, and I learned that police can do, and they will do, anything that they want. So, laying on the ground in South Florida a few weeks ago, I realized that, man, I got no home programmed inside of me, and not safe programmed, and bad wiring, faulty data. These core beliefs about me are no bueno, man. My managers see it. I mean, I got 8 albums. They say I lack confidence, that I look wounded, and I know I am, and I know I do. And since 18, there's been countless hospitals and lockups and suicide attempts, and yeah, I lit myself on fire at 27. I did that. You stop getting invited to all the good parties when you light yourself on fire. And you keep drinking. I did that. And I always return to the memories of being 3 in Nebraska. Like, where was my mom at, man? And oldest boy, he gave me hickeys on my neck, and the kids all tease me. They all tease me, man. This kid, and they tease me. I was just this kid, and I'm always fucking up the tenses in this writing. That's why I've destroyed this damn thing 10 times. I say he, I say they, I say me, I say I. Now I know if I don't get this out, if I don't solve this riddle of how to heal me, if I don't find the paradigm, if I don't find the modality that works for me, I'll end up on the streets permanently, and that fucking terrifies me. Cause once you crack slick like I've done, it's so hard to get back out of where the sidewalk broke, man. Once you slip down in there below the sidewalk, it's so hard to climb your way up and out of that hole, man. And where was my mom back then in Nebraska? Where was my dad? I mean, him and I never liked each other. We didn't connect, but her, I loved her, and she had to have known, because moms know, and the hickeys on my neck, she had to know. And that fucked with me. The whole time growing up, it fucked with me. Now, my family has asked me to shut my mouth forever and never speak of any of this again. I get it. It's not the fun that they're used to. It's not the fun they are used to. They're used to drinking together. Everybody's drinking together, and I drank too. It's what we all did in Montana. We learned how to drink, but I'm the only one that got 5 DUIs and arrested in 5 different states. I'm the only one. So I don't drink no more, but they get to have fun. We all learned how to drink like pros growing up in Montana on our own. Junior high school on, we were on our own. We all got out of the house. The house was nowhere to be. Our house was dangerous. And I'm the only one with 5 DUIs, like I said, all in different states. I'm the only one with a rap sheet a mile long. Hooked on danger, man. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go anymore. Spending nights out in the April cold in New York City. It's not glamorous. I ain't no good, homeless man. No good at all. Why didn't she protect me? I ask myself when I'm lying on the ground, when I'm pulling up in the dirt and the mulch, and I don't have a jacket because I forgot it in the fucking sailboat in Key West that I thought was a good idea to live on, which I knew was bad, man. I knew it was gonna be bad because I know boat people. I know people who have sailboats and live on them, and I knew that it would be just as likely that I give the man my money and then he kicks me off, because that's what boat people do, man. Why didn't she protect me, man? When I find myself cracked slipped way down in the cement below the street, below the gutter, below Skid Row, 'cause I ain't got no tent to speak of, no food or water. I'm in Buffalo and it's 20 below zero. I'm in a parking lot with just a sweatshirt on. Like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I keep saying. Or in New Orleans, suddenly a cold front come through. It's 60 degrees, but then it dipped to 20, man, fast. And 60 to 20, man, and hypothermia come knocking. And I'm going from Florida to New Orleans to Buffalo to Philly, just hopping planes now, one after another. And then I find myself in South Florida under a tree after Key West. And this obviously became a theme, man. How to fix it. One place after another, just hopping and skipping it. And how do I grasp where it all started? And when did I start moving? I think it was 1997, somewhere around there, man. And I'm lying in the dirt and the mulch and pulling over some clothes on top of me, like my fashion line. I'm hauling it around, and it's good. Like, my fashion line's good, and it's all I have to keep warm with. I'm in the dirt, and I'm blaming my parents, man. Yeah, they obviously created this situation, but they're not gonna fix it. Therapy's not worked. I reject recovery altogether, man. I'm just that guy, and unlike some of my friends who got 16 years, like Jeffries, but I mean, there were hickeys on my neck. It was evidence. They knew, they had to know. I became a really weird kid after that, withdrawn and aloof. I love my mom, the one they call Boots, but she didn't protect me, man. She left. She abandoned me. She left me with criminals. Walked out in her car with my sister, gone. I was 6. We'll dive deep into that. What all went down, man. But I want the United Church of Christ in Broomfield and Absaroka, Montana, to be held responsible, man. My mom was gone, so I was alone with my father and my new stepmother, Jenny. Don't call me Jenny, she said. Her name's Jennifer, but I call her Jenny. I call her Jenny instead. I want the Absaroka school system of Montana to pay for the movie I want to make exploring the topic. How do we heal when batshit crazy stuff like this goes down as children, man? When the programming, the neural pathways we establish as children in dark rooms, obsessed with how we're not welcome, how there's no home for me, and we repeat it over and over until it's branded into our little psyches to be played out in bad relationships over and over, and jail and loss, and always loss of everything, and how there's not enough for you. No, can't afford it. No, not for you, can't afford it. The reality that I was pawned off to pedophiles to satisfy a passing on of this type of abuse, common in my father's family, incest, call it what it is, was common with these people. Face it, I was sacrificed on purpose so that my half-siblings could be the chosen ones, so they could be taken care of, so they could have a good childhood. They were sacrificed, locked in a basement. And everybody loved Boots, my mom, and her family lived all around the Denver area. There were grandparents and aunts and uncles and lots of cousins getting together often, and we were connected. And Boots was a lot of fun. Everyone thought so. She played the guitar, and we all sang with her. She wore panties on her head while she vacuumed the house. And she yelled out the window, the back door. She said, "Hello, world!" Man, there was nobody like my mom. She was a silly, plump lesbian, and she loved her children, who had no idea that all was not well in the parsonage, man. That's the house that the church owned, man, where they let you live. Until one day, man, my parents sat the 3 of us children down and said that Boots and Reverend George, they were divorcing, man, right then. Boots walked out the door with my sister Tass, and she was my favorite damn thing. She was practically my twin, man. And my 2 favorite things in the world were gone forever. Tass was my mom's favorite. We always knew it. Tass was my mom's favorite, and I must have blown it. I must have blew it. Boots, she abandoned her son, man. She left me with child abusers. There's one in the house now. Like, they moved the 18-year-old from Nebraska into the house. He was the babysitter, man. But mostly, I spent my time sucking his dick like usual. It was just beginning to unfold for us two children left with the Reverend, man. This was just the beginning. And the Reverend wasn't fun. He was often angry, man, throwing things in a rage. He toppled the shelves in the basement, which housed the children's toys, man. He often hit his children, man. Us, me. He threw my dog against the wall when she had an accident, when she just peed on the floor. Throw her against the wall. She was my poodle, man. She was my everything. Not him. I couldn't stand him. It's not very godly to do that. It's not behavior you would expect from a man of the cloth, but nothing that he did was. And my family just wants me to shut up, just never talk about it. They're all going on like nothing ever happened, and I figure it's because my siblings, they got kids, and kids need grandparents, and they need a grandfather, so just don't talk about it. Make me promise, don't ever bring it up again. So Brycey boy, yeah, that's me. I didn't like that man. I never had bonded with the minister. He had moved the boy, man, from Nebraska, who I've been sucking off since 3, into the house in Colorado, man. The one I've been sucking off in Nebraska since I can remember. That body of a man, 19 years old, now resides in our house, which is just one more level of twisted, man. You're gonna tell me this was not done on purpose? Really, Rev? You think I believe you that this wasn't your plan to have me sucking dick as much as possible for the entire duration of my batshit crazy childhood, man? Seriously. How dare I imply that you knew? That's what you say? That's what you say? How dare you say it was my fault? Yeah, you say it was my fault because you do. You have said that many times, that our lack of connection somehow drove me into the crotch of these men I sucked off in my room or in a field or at their house night after night. Like in Upsorky, when we finally moved there with Peter Massey, and the pedophile who picked me off the playground. But we'll get to that, yeah. If you ask the Rev, man, he'll find a way to move the pieces and the parts, to change the details, rearrange the facts, and say that I'm making it up, that it didn't happen that way, or he will find a way to blame the shit on me. Does it all? He's done it many times. Does it all the time. He's never apologized or taken any responsibility for any of the details of our lives, the various types of abuse, and I've just started documenting the sexual. It went way beyond this. Spiritual, physical, locked us in a basement. Fucking slaves for these people. And soon we'd be gone from Denver, man. The Rev would lose his big church, because that's what happens in 1979 when you get divorced and your wife's a lesbian and you tape recorded her and in bed with her lover, and you've been having an affair with the secretary. And there's that 18-year-old girl, too, that says that you raped her. You don't deny it when I asked you. So we'd be banished to the hinterlands of Montana to a tiny congregation that met in an old prefab building which once housed a bank. Not very glamorous. Wasn't really a church. Not very many people. Definitely a demotion. But this was not before the state found out about the pedophile who was living in our Colorado home. They found out. They said I was supposed to be taken out of that house and I was supposed to get help. You were supposed to get help for me. He was babysitting us 3 children, and he was having his way with me as he stood up on the bed against the headboard. That's the way he liked it there. I knew the drill. Put it in my mouth, kiss it, suck it, move it around. He really liked it. He moaned, he made noise. He came in my mouth. I didn't like that at all. I didn't like the way it tasted. But I was used to it. And I say for the record, I hated the taste of it, but he didn't fuck me in the ass. I was lucky. It's no big fantasy to be a 6-year-old cocksucker, as some gays think it is. Really, they ask me that. It's not. Really, I wonder what could have been if none of it happened, man. I wonder what I could have been if none of this happened. But I gotta square it. I gotta accept it. And the state found out and recommended I be taken out of the home and get help for the abuse, which had been sustained for years at this point. And this never happened. We moved to Montana, and we're not quite a family unit. I felt like I was a product of my father's incest, and I can't speak for my sister. And her and the Rev had a bond. They did math problems together while I fantasized about the 2 men from church, obviously a couple, taking me home with them, making me their boy. Just wanted to get out of this fucking house. I'll be your boy. I pressed my leg up against them in church, pressed myself up against them as hard as I could. Please take me out of this fucking house. not my home. This house is not my home. I don't belong. This house is not my home. No home. No home. Homeless. Homeless. The Reverend was remarried to a woman named Jennifer, and she was real nice at first until she had her first child with the minister. Then it was basement living for us, and we were not considered part of the family at all, really. We were foreigners, man. We were there to clean her house, man, to vacuum and dust, to clean the shit in the yard from her 4 dogs. That was my job. We had jobs every day, man. Job after job. I don't really know what she did except for drink wine. And I became suicidal. For the first time at 6 or 7, just lying for hours on a rock pile in our driveway, crying for my mom. Like, where's my mom? I want my mommy, man. Where, man? Why could she leave me with this woman who I was not supposed to call Jenny, but I did, because she was the worst, man. She put labels on the food even, saying, not for you, no, for my babies, don't eat. Everything was no, not for you, can't have it. We can't afford it. Pants, clothes, shoes, always no. Pictures of the family upstairs all over the walls were of them. Not of us. None of us. We were her slaves, man, to remain that way for the duration of our years with them. She called me dumb shit, and I believed her. I didn't think I was smart like them. I was reported as neglected, and he blamed my 6-year-old self. And I knew I was bad. I knew I was wrong. I was dirty. I was shameful. I knew I was unwanted, and I was not at home here. I wonder where my mom went. She barely called. Because it was long distance and we couldn't afford it. It was expensive. After her first baby was born, my oldest sister and I were relegated to the first basement we would occupy. We were in Billings, Montana, and it became harder and harder to get even the basics we needed, man. Shoes, clothing, even the food in the house. Like I said, it had labels. Don't eat, not for you, no, was the word I heard. No, not for you. There's no money. It was a crisis. We couldn't afford it. This sucked too. I believed that I didn't deserve nice things, only the cheapest. Still, when I go into stores, I can only pick out the cheapest version of the thing I need. Only the most inexpensive. Why did I believe all of it? Take it on like a computer to be programmed. When my sisters have excelled, and they're not hampered like I am, they have succeeded at a very high level. They did therapy. I know it worked for them. I tried it many times. But talking in a room with a therapist never fixed me. And I fear it's too late now, that my fate is sealed and I can't get out from the crack I fell into, man. I'm 7 years old and I'm thinking, where the hell is my mother, man? I'm obviously neglected and have been reported for being dirty at soccer practice. The coach pulled my father aside and told him there have been voices of concern that it seems like I'm not bathed, that I need clothing, new clothing and a pair of shoes. Maybe in order, man. Can they talk about it? Does he need help? Was everything okay at our house? Coach asked. Now he's in front of me in the bathroom and he's letting me have it, man. Like it was apt to do when someone asked after my well-being. This motherfucker. That was how I saw him, even at 6, my age then. I hated him, man. He flew off the handle, cornered me, and told me how ashamed he was that I was going around looking like a dirty pig, disheveled, unkept, an embarrassment I was to him. Embarrassment I was. To this day, it's difficult for me to get a haircut regularly like other folks do, or buy myself clothes, feed myself, take care, as folks tell me to do. It's like I never learned, and it's getting worse. It's becoming chronic, man. I walk out of doors without the proper clothes. I make rash decisions about where I'll be living, like head to Key West and put my money down on a sailboat 1 mile out, man. 1 mile out on a hook. No water experience, never having driven a dinghy, no experience on a boat, felt well knowing the risk as boat people are an odd, sketchy mix, and I knew there was a high likelihood I would be ejected from said boat, leaving Key West in a flash, because this is what I do best, leave, always have. And I can identify now that this was the occasion when I first really broke apart in that bathroom, him berating me for being filthy, me knowing he was right, that the wrong was in me, because my mom left, and if I was correct, if I was right, she would not have left me with these horrible fucking people. Pieces of me were falling this way and that in Billings that afternoon, far away from anyone who had once cared about me. My grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, they were gone, man, left behind in Denver. We never spoke to them. I never saw them again. I was splintered, man. I became pieces of me, retreating to my room. I was crying, and my mom, man, my mom. And I was often grounded to that room for weeks because I was mouthy. I called it as it was. She was a fucking bitch. I was 8 and I couldn't help but say what I felt. I'm just a slave here. I'm not part of this family. You people are bad. You're wrong. And the fact that you preach in a church is a joke, man. Your religion's a joke. Nobody should listen to you. You and Jenny, you're evil people, man. I screamed it. They hit. They hit, and then everybody cried, and I hit back, and I cannot understand where my mom went, man. Late at night, lying in bed. I got no home, man. This is not for me. This place sucks. This is not my home. I have no home. I don't belong here. I want to go anywhere but here. Please take me out of here. The gay men at church, please take me away. She didn't even call, man, because that was expensive, long distance, There's no money for us down here in the basement. We can't afford it. Buried in my psyche too, man. Can't afford it. Not for you. No money. Not enough. But there was plenty for the ones upstairs, man. Her kids, they had wealthy grandparents, and they ate the food with the notes on it, which excluded us. Not for you. The upstairs was for us to clean, but it wasn't for us to live. It was not a home for the kids that the minister had before the first ones. He'd sacrificed us, and he admits that. So her babies would feel loved, man, safe and protected, man. He shoved us down there. Not sure why we all could not be wanted. It's just not the way it happened. It's not the way the cards were laid out. It was not going to change, but would advance, man. It would get worse. It would be amplified for years to come when the violence would spill into the streets. And the violence was a regular occurrence now, man. I called her a bitch at dinner. I was probably 7, man. I was full of rage and grown-up rage, and not really a child anymore. I collected black widows, man, and I kept them in jars and fantasized about them biting me and death, man. I thought a lot about death. None of this was healthy, I know. It sucked. It wasn't good or right, this life, man. I called her a bitch, and he came at me fast, man. He beat me, open fist, closed fist, who knows? Broke my nose. He doesn't remember this at all. When I brought it up recently, conveniently, all is forgotten. But I remember being asked to tell the folks at church that I fell off my bike. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. No fucking way. I said the goddamn reverend did this. The marks on my face, the swollen lips, the way I looked, is from what we do at our house on any given evening, man. We call this dinner time fun. Call it dinner time fun. In the basement room where I went, sad and dejected, grounded to it usually, I repeated the thoughts to myself. I don't belong here. I'm alone. I have nothing. I am nothing. There's not enough for me. Not for me. This is not a home. I'm worthless. I'm stupid. Nobody wants me. No home. Over and over, the monkey brain began to program my life. For the future, I realized. I was programmed to merely survive, never thriving, never feeling loved or connected to anyone. I only now realize that I programmed myself to be homeless. No home. I don't belong here. No home. Neural pathways. That I'd not established a home for myself ever, unless I was with a boyfriend. I'm nearly 50, and this is true to this day. I'm lost, a rudderless vessel just bouncing from place to place, and it's become very unsafe. The streets are unsafe, man. I realize that if I don't write this, perform it, and do some sort of magic, sacred ritual, and reprogram myself, then I'm a goner, done for. And I don't know if it's too late. I based my life on a series of visions I had at the age of 15. I've recorded 8 albums, and I've worked with some incredible artists. I've shown and sold sculptures around the world with a collective out of Barcelona, and I have many fun and wonderful stories. But I have about a week left of housing before I once again be homeless. A week before my show in New York opens, and then I don't know what. I realize that I need to write this one-man show, that it's time. Maybe a long time ago I should have, but I can do it now. The information came through that I was to write now. 30 years ago I knew, and I wasn't ready. I've been hashing and rehashing this material since then. 10 times I've written this, whatever it is, this myth, this legend, this story thing about what I was supposed to be, this artist. It's the 11th now, man, and this one's to save my life. The 11th to identify where I broke, when and how, and find the modality that works for this artist to heal, or else I fear I'll end up in the bottom of some river or something tragic like that. Seriously. After 3 years in Billings, man, we moved to a town called Absorki, kind of up in the mountains, like on the way to Yellowstone Park. In June, the motherfucker, who was adored, man, because he was a very good orator, man. He's a Princeton grad, all of that, the minister, the Reverend George. He was very smart and had a way with people. Of course he did. They love ministers, man. They love the Reverend. They put him way on a pedestal, like he's above human, like he's better than everyone. He had a way of fucking your mind, man, until you didn't know which way was which. They both did, Jennifer and George. Jennifer would do something horrible during the day, like lock us out for hours and hours, not let us in the house. He would come home. She would lie. George, I would never do that. Nothing, no truth. Nothing, no truth. There was no truth. Couldn't get to the bottom of anything because she would lie. He believed her. Her word for everything. She was obviously in this to torture us until we just disappeared, which we did eventually. She got what she wanted. Her family with the Reverend, us gone. But in June, ahead of the family moving to this little village of Absorki, the former capital of the Crow Indian Nation, the Reverend, he dropped me off in the town. I didn't know, never been there, for the summer. No money, no resources, with a family to live with who I'd never met. 3 months. Just plopped me down there. I was expected to play baseball, which I had no idea how to play. Never hit a ball, never threw. He'd never thrown one with me. I never put a mitt on. I don't know what the fuck I was doing there. I was mortified. He left me there for 3 months. I did not fit in at all with these ranch kids. I don't know anything about cattle or horses, and I didn't have any money, man, so I stole some. Of course I did. And I was caught, and I paid a hefty price. I was beaten up. I got a taste of what was in store for me in Absorki. Very soon after school started, I was picked off the playground by the next pedophile. His name was Peter Massey. I loved him. He was my first love. And all the school grades from K to 12 were on the same campus in Absorki. And Peter was a senior in high school, man. I'll tell you what, I loved him. I became his little lover boy. And for the better part of 2 years, I slept with him every night, sleeping on top of his stomach, man, his hard dick grinding into me. He told me later when I contacted him as an adult, wanting answers, man, wanting to know, like, why me? Like, and he said I looked lonely, man. He said I looked sad, rejected, and obviously I was a gay boy. So I became his, man, willingly. I loved staying with him, man. He gave me beer, and I rode in his pickup on his lap. Again, hard cock grinding into me, into my bottom. It was exciting. I was in 5th grade then, and I slept on top of him. His stomach, man, hard cock. Nightly we did this in a town of 1,000 people in Montana, man. Everyone knew everyone. And of course they knew I was his child lover. I was not the first one. There was the Altruggy boy before me. Folks knew all about that. So what was this? An entire community, a town, a school, teachers, administrators, the fucking church sacrificing me again? Nobody said a word, helped in any way. Nobody, ever, about anything that happened in our house or with Peter. I said I liked it because this was how I learned to get affection. Children want to be loved, man. They want to feel special, and pedophiles know exactly how to fill these shoes. But as I got older, it all just became so confusing, man. I mean, nobody ever protected me. It got worse and worse. There was no home for me, only men who I had sex with since my earliest memories. These men replaced, as I became an adult, with one after another. Bad relationships, man. Bad boyfriends. One after another from the very beginning. Who I traded with my body, sex, a model on their arm at the club. I was a model, sure. Traded me, sex, on their arm for a house to live in, a place to live, because I had no idea how to do this for myself. It was a mystery to me, even when I would rent a place of my own. It was only a matter of days or weeks, rarely months, before I abandoned it, left in the middle of the night, had to go, leave. I'd never owned furniture, pots and pans of my own. I own nothing now because I've been on the road for 2 years and it's all gone, man. I lost it all in Miami. It was all my exes anyway. Well, he put me in jail on a false charge, man. I never went back for my studio materials. I lost my sculptures. I lost my art, my canvases, my paint. I never went back. The police said they would put me in jail again if they ever saw me in that neighborhood, and I believed them. They put me in jail once, so who's to say they're not gonna do it again? I gave them what they wanted, man. The men I had sex with, I worshiped them blindly, man. Sucked their dicks all night long. I made their house. I can do that with them, with a boyfriend. I cooked their meals, all of them, to design their properties, their gardens. I was very talented, had a lot of skills, but I'm unable to take care of myself when the relationship ended because I always had a man paying the bills, the mortgage, most of my life, man. I never learned how. I didn't even know that you paid rent on the first of the month. I thought it was at the end. I had two daddies in my 20s. One was considered to be right up there with the most powerful men in the world. He was amazing. I loved him more than anything. So yeah, man, I saw visions from the age of 15. I thought myself to be all kinds of special. The voice in my head continued. The woman singing, she sounded like Billie Holiday. I realized who she was. Why did these voices keep telling me to set out for New York City? As soon as I could, man. I didn't know anybody who ever been to New York. I'm in Montana, man. But I would hear when I walked down the grocery store aisle as I went past the soup cans, Andy Warhol said, "Most important, kid, gotta get to New York City, meet all those who worked at the factory, Campbell's Soup Can. Remember, get to New York City by 1992. Meet her at Bardot, she'll be there singing." I did, man. I was right on time. And there she was, the most beautiful creature in the world. Joey Aries was there singing. My baby, my secret lover. Man, I saw visions of a colorful people too, dancing in my head in costumes and wild outfits they wore. And they were going round and round a tall pole in the ground. Each one of these people who do not resemble anyone I'd ever seen before. They were not like regular people at all. This was obvious, man. They were different. Magic people. They were wearing costumes like men. Men were in dresses and I saw lesbians in garbage bag dresses, and fisting, and and a lot of people wearing nothing at all. One was half woman, half man. I see that, and obviously one looks just like Pan, the pagan archetype. These must be neo-pagans, I assumed. I don't know who they are, but I know I'm supposed to go find them. There are hundreds of these people, and they were sexy, or should I say they were having sex out in the open, and they looked to be very, very happy. So the voice in my head, was it more than one being? Who was it? I don't know how to figure that out. It told me that I would set out as soon as I could on a quest, as soon as high school was over, to find these people, that they were my kind, that I have gifts, abilities, that I'm a psychic. I knew that. I was seeing things before they happened that was happening all the time. This was going to be my life. The start of a long journey was to find these people. I must head out, hitchhiking. I was thinking my thumb as magic. Thinking my thumb as a magic thumb, and I had to trust that I would know the way, that I would just know, that I would get there. There was nothing I could do about it. No sense in fighting my destiny. I had chosen this path before I was born, they said, and all the abuse I went through as a child had programmed me to become a searcher, a seer, an art shaman, they called me. I never did any art. Didn't have any desire to. I couldn't draw, couldn't paint. I don't know what the fuck they were talking about, art shaman. I was programmed, though, they said, for evolution, or perhaps for disaster. Those were very close together, they said. The connection between brilliance and madness. This would be something I would spend a lifetime exploring, man. Until I'm 50. Connection between brilliance and madness. Yep, that fits me. They said we were in a life and death battle, man, to save this planet. That it was a tipping point, and maybe we'd gone past it. That humans had an opportunity to evolve into a more advanced species, and we're going from the third to the fifth dimension, man. I had no idea what this meant, but I followed the instructions they gave me. I took off. I gave away everything I owned, much to the dismay of my mother, and I'd already had a meditation in an adobe house in Tucson. I knew that everything was energy, that the walls were energy, that the floor was energy, the table was energy, the desk was energy, that it was all alive. I could see it moving. So I asked the universe to show me that I wanted to see what was really there, and it melted, and never went back. And now I see, always have, energy everywhere. My guides, spirit guides, Reiki guides, they're all around me. Man, they said it's not going to be easy, not by a long shot, and there were no guarantees. And looking back on it now, I wonder if I made a grave mistake, man, because this homelessness, and I don't got any money, and nothing saved, and who does that? And it doesn't feel good. Some folks I work with ask me, MFT, do you have a backup plan? And I'm like, shit, no, I don't. There's no backup plan, man. And I went all in. It's freaking me out right now. What with the in the dirt under the tree sleeping and the bad programming short circuiting my internal wiring and how to fix it and I don't know. Perhaps I should have been a teacher like my sister, man. She only had one job her whole fucking life. One job, teacher in Boulder, man. That sounds nice right now. They said that I was firmly on the path. They gave me a warning that if I abandoned this path, I would surely go insane. All the masters say the same thing. That this was part of the reality of being a spiritual warrior. I would fall deeply into a trance state. Easily by the age of 15, I saw my entire life in the visions that they sent me. I saw how I would find these magic people and make a pilgrimage often to this land. Where I went, where they live, a mountaintop. It's where a new culture flourishes. Walking down the street as a junior in high school, also, after all this started, the visions, the ladies singing, who I could not identify, but I loved somehow more than anyone I'd ever met. A flash occurred, boom, like lightning. I was hit with the knowledge, man, that I was going to be famous. I was going to be so famous. Yeah, that I have a special place in the records, the Akashan records, they said, of the world. When it was all said and done, if I could succeed in. That meant a lot to me, man. I loved the idea of fame, money, and power, and was addicted to it for a long time. Little did I know that this was a trap set for me. This whole idea of fame, a ridiculous one, a pointless pursuit. Why was I told this? We can circle back to this, explore it later, as I've been obsessed with losing my nightclub life and my shot at fame for a long time now. After I lost it, after I lit myself on fire, 27. But the visions continued, man. I meditated often and was told that after I met my people, I'd be connected in New York City with a group of powerful activists, of powerful men, of powerful people, our crew, our own. And I was an activist, man. I had worked with Bob Paris, Mr. Universe, shot a film with him. I had started my own speakers bureau in Tucson at 16. Like, everybody wanted to hear from me because I was this out kid, this very eloquent speaker. I was booked all over the state. I would meet not only my people, but a select group of very powerful people in New York City, I was told, and one man in particular who I would love and spend 10 years with. And I know now, I know who it was. It was Ethan Ghetto, man. My first producer, my hero, the most incredible man I've ever met, who made my life in New York unlike anything I could ever imagine. And he don't speak to me anymore, but go on and on about him, man. There's books written about him. You can read them, and it just makes me sad now that I can't even get a call through to him. When 10 years, I spent all my weekends at his estate and paid for my first album. Not just that, but believed in me and believed in MoonFire Tower. Now he's gone like so many. So there's the Reverend. This Reverend, he abused his children, and his wife, the jolly lesbian, she's gone, not coming back. Hardly talk to her. He's a very angry man, man. Where did all his anger come from, man? Nobody in their house knew, and he tape recorded her in bed with her lesbian lover, played it for the courts, and he was fucking his secretary and always had a mistress. So what was the big deal about Boots and her lover? It's unclear. But the Reverend played the recording, and in the divorce proceedings, Boots lost her children, and he never paid child support. She said she was destroyed by the minister, and that's why she left and never came back. Man, he was a Princeton grad, a genius. And he liked to tell you all about it. He liked to tell you how smart he was. He had a method of mind control, I'll tell you that. Mind fucking's what I call it. All of his own. It's hard to explain, but it's partly the premise of this story. And the boy in the story, it's me. I've been writing this, whatever it is, since 92, like 11 versions now. And I've written it over and over. Each time I destroy it, realizing that the voice is not correct, but this time it's got to be, because it's got to save this life of me. First version came out in 92. Zach's Lightning Moss, my partner in crime, partner in everything. He channeled most of that version. After we were put in a fairy circle, when the light being came out of the woods and circled us, both of us, we saw this pixie creature flying towards us. We exclaimed, "It's a fairy, you see it?" Zach asked, I did. I said, "I see it." Then it flew around us, encircled us. We both knew what this meant, a fairy circle it had put us in. This could be good, or this could be bad. It's powerful magic for sure, man. We've been had. So in version number 1, Way back in '92, channeled by Zax, we were psychic superhero drag queen fairies. We were living legends on a mission to save the Earth, to expose where a great rift had happened, when ego was created by religion, when were tricked into believing, I think, therefore I am. Mindfuck for sure. And so forth. We were oh so glamorous, and we were soaked in money, man. We had rich boyfriends and all of that. Very rich. This probably made us forget the importance of this mission. Zax quit the project and the band and eventually landed in Bellevue like they said would happen. And now he sits behind the other side of the internet looking like a fat frog, posting pictures of studs, one after another, muscle dudes, sexy man with nothing else going on. He doesn't make art and no projects. Always says no to be part of what I'm still working on and will not help me connect with Ethan at all. It's very frustrating, man. I love Ethan. I love them all the ones who have dropped off and we don't talk, and there's plenty of people who got rid of me over the years. I don't want to give that any more energy, but arriving in New York City this time, it hit me like it does when the information comes direct from source, spirit, the great pumpkin in the sky. Call it whatever you want. Call it what you will. New York is open to MoonFire Tower, to me, in a way that it has not been since the 90s. It's like the 90s again, but better. So I'm facing my fears, man. I'm putting out this material as I can. This is obviously a one-man show. I'm not going to be featuring all of this at this first event next Sunday. I'm producing in the city, my first show in New York City in a very long time, and return to the scene, it comes into focus, man. And just after high school, the information came that there would be a one-man show, that I needed to produce it. But now it comes 3 decades later. Back then, I cataloged it, made a note, and that's what I do, and I use it when I'm supposed to. So, I, him, he, we, this kid, Bryce, me. That one-man show I never achieved, and I am one to execute, though. I'm not a procrastinator. I have 8 albums under my belt, and I've toured the world as a sculptor, but this elusive material, this story, this path I've been on, this vision, this legend, whatever it is, the thing, the myth, it's taken me from place to place around this country, from the age of 18, when I gave away everything I owned, as instructed by a voice in my head. Oh gosh, some started to speculate that I was cracked a bit. Yes, they did. I put only what I could carry into a backpack. I took off, on the road as it were, just like Jack Kerouac, my favorite writer. I read everything I could. Our boy hero did, me, Bryce. And I got a problem with grammar. I use he, I, then. I no idea why. It seems like a way I sabotage this, whatever the hell it is, this story of this wacky life. It's about the transformation of the earth, man, happening. About the predictions that there would be a whole new human species emerging, a great leap forward. Ram Dass, Shakti Gawain, Emmanuel's book, The Celestine Prophecy, The Way of the Spiritual Warrior, all the books we read growing up, they pertain to the topic, man. It's all the same. I knew I was a warrior too, and spontaneously acted out ancient pagan rites of passage. These were intense, man. They involved asking spirit to show me the truth, man, to know the truth. I wanted to see, because I knew that what I'd been taught about this world was a lie. I could see it right there, feel it. I received the information directly from a connection I'd established by practicing what was freely in the literature I read. Why are humans still shopping at malls, buying things they don't need? 50 pairs of shoes for one person? It made no sense at all. Nothing does in this planet. I asked to see what's really there, what's really here. I asked the universe to show me, to lift the veil once and for all. It's not recommended to do this, my friends, seriously. I've witnessed a seeker doing it as I did, and I tried to stop him, man. This life, it would have been much simpler, so much easier and different, manageable, if I had not needed to know so much truth, to see what's really here, to talk to spirit, man, to go on vision quests, to give all my stuff away, to jump into the void. Man, I could have been a hotel GM or just an artist, just a regular artist, man. More focus and no travel, more home. But when a seeker does this type of asking, then the universe must provide the answer to the question. And the answer can be painful. It can feel like a great battle between good and evil is being waged inside of the warrior. That is what happened to me when I chose the path of light and cast the darkness out from where it was attached to my insides. I was sick with this fight at 18 years old. Sick for a long time, man. It led to my first mental hospital. Lockup, yep. I was already tired from battling back from the child abuse, man. I was tired, man, from coming out at 15, man, for fighting for a place to exist in this world. When I found I was not welcome in my mom's house either, man. When I moved there, prep school, and her partner wouldn't speak to me. Neither of them supported me when I came out of the closet, man. My mom has never been out with her partner. She told me I was choosing a very hard life when I came out. Her girlfriend remained silent when it came to interacting with me for 4 years high school. Walked right past me in the house. All those years. Fucking killed me inside. Was never welcome in their house after graduation. My sisters were. Always. Always they could say, not me. That's what happened, man. You ask to know the truth and you choose the light, and you're asked to see what is really here, not what we are told is all around us, which is a whole lot of nothing, they say. Just space, just desk here, no energy. It's energy, man. They've proven that when they observe the tiniest particles, these microscopes, the particles respond back. They say, hey, we're here, we see you looking at us. You looking at us looking at you. It's obvious that there's a battle going on, and confirmation about where my affiliation lied, man. It's clear, man. I cast the darkness out, as seekers do every day, man. I choose no fear, man. I choose love. I choose to follow the path. It's a pulling apart of darkness and light. Pulling apart of darkness and light ensues, and you feel like you could die, man. It's that painful. But now I'm just writing it down. It's a lot, man. It's more than an hour. That's just one afternoon writing.